That night, the palace was alive with celebration. Lanterns floated in the air, filling the halls with shifting colors. Musicians strummed crystalline strings, and the kitchens worked tirelessly to prepare feasts that stretched across gilded tables. Yet Lyara barely tasted the food or heard the music. Her eyes kept searching for him. Kael sat at the far end of the grand hall, surrounded by officers and dignitaries. His expression was polite but distant, as though every word spoken to him were a burden. He raised a goblet in silent acknowledgement whenever praised, but never once did his lips curve into a genuine smile. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Lyara slipped away from her throne and approached him. "Commander," she said softly, her voice carrying more weight than she intended. He looked up and their eyes met. For a heartbeat, the hall seemed to fall away. "Your Highness," he said, standing and bowing with perfect formality. She frowned. "You don't remember me, do you?" His brow furrowed. For a long moment he studied her face. Then something flickered in his gaze. Confusion, recognition, and something else he quickly hid. "Lyara," he whispered, just low enough that only she could hear. Relief washed over her, though it was tinged with sorrow. He remembered. "I thought you were lost," she said, her voice trembling. "The night the Tyrati raided our borders, you vanished." "I was taken," Kael admitted, his voice quiet and hard. "Sold to mercenaries. Trained as a weapon. By the time I returned, the world I knew had moved on." Lyara's throat tightened. She wanted to reach for him to bridge the years that separated them, but he had already straightened, his soldier's mask sliding back into place. "Forgive me, Princess. That was another life." But Lyara knew. Beneath the armor, beneath the stoic facade, her friend was still there. The middle, a war's shadow. In the weeks that followed, Kael remained at the palace as the Dominion rebuilt. He was granted titles, lands, and riches, yet he seemed to care for none of it. When asked what reward he desired, he only requested time away from politics. Lyara, however, could not let him vanish again. She sought him out, first with excuses of duty, then simply because she wanted to. They walked the palace gardens where they had once played as children. Though his steps were measured, cautious, she saw his guard lower in fleeting moments, when the wind carried the scent of the moon blossoms they used to chase, or when laughter from the barracks reminded him of simpler days. One evening, beneath the glow of Archean's twin moons, she asked him the question that had haunted her since his return. "Why do you act as though we're strangers?" Kael's jaw tightened. "Because I am not the boy you remember." "You're still Kael," she insisted. "You saved us. You saved me." His gaze hardened. "And I killed to do it. Thousands. The horde, the mercenaries, anyone who stood in the way. I was shaped into a weapon, Lyara. You deserve to remember the boy, not the soldier." Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't look away. And yet, it was the soldier who brought peace, who stood when no one else could. Both the boy and the man matter to me. For the first time since his return, Kael's composure faltered. He looked at her as though seeing her anew, as though wondering if redemption was possible. The twist, shadows of betrayal. Peace, however, was fragile. Whispers reached the palace of surviving Tyrati warbands regrouping on the frontier. Lyara's council urged her to send Kael to lead a preemptive strike, but she hesitated. He had given everything already. His youth, his soul, to the war. Could she ask more of him? Yet Kael volunteered before she could decide. "It's better if I go," he told her. "If they rise again, more innocents will die." She wanted to stop him, but the look in his eyes silenced her. Duty had been carved into his very being. Still something felt wrong. Her instincts as both a princess and as Kael's friend screamed that danger lay not just beyond their borders, but within their walls. Her suspicions proved true. Days later, a courier intercepted Kael's unit with false orders, directing them into an ambush. Lyara discovered the treachery too late. Someone in her own council had betrayed them. Desperate, she rode out with her guard to the battlefield, arriving just as the Tyratee descended upon Kael's outnumbered soldiers. The sight stole her breath. Kael stood at the heart of the fray, blades in both hands, moving like a storm made flesh. Even against overwhelming odds, he fought with unyielding ferocity, every strike fueled by a will that refused to surrender. But even storms can be broken. A Tyratee warlord struck Kael down, his armor shattering under the blow. "No!" Lyara cried, rushing into the chaos. Against her guard's protests, she threw herself beside him, shielding his body with her own. The Tyratee sneered, raising their weapon, only for reinforcements loyal to Lyara to arrive in a blazing charge. The battle turned, the horde scattered, but Lyara barely noticed. All she saw was Kael, bleeding, fading. "Stay with me," she begged, clutching his hand. "Please, Kael, don't leave me again." Through cracked lips he whispered, "I promised I'd protect you, even if it cost me everything." The ending, a future forged. Kael survived, though only barely. Weeks passed before he regained enough strength to rise from his bed. When he finally did, Lyara was there, waiting. "You nearly died for me," she said, anger and relief warring in her voice. "I would do it again," Kael replied simply. She shook her head. "I don't want a soldier who throws his life away. I want my friend. I want the boy who once swore he'd never let me feel alone." For the first time in years, Kael smiled. Not the cold, weary smile of a commander, but a genuine one. "Then maybe," he said softly, "it's time I remembered how to be him again." Together, they confronted the council, exposing the traitor who had nearly doomed them all. Trust was rebuilt, the Dominion stabilized, and for the first time since the war began, hope bloomed like the moon blossoms in the gardens. Lyara often found Kael walking those gardens, no longer haunted but healing. The scars would never vanish, but neither would the bond they shared. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon and stars lit the skies, Lyara turned to him. "You were the soldier who won the war," she said, "but you were also the friend who once made me laugh when the world seemed heavy. To me, you will always be both." And in that moment, Kael realized that perhaps the war had not stolen everything from him after all. It had brought him back to her.